30. Gemini. Contessa of Milbury was magic. Although I suspected she'd hesitated a couple times during our battle, her minions had closed the gaps and done an amazing job of enfeebling the enemies who got past us. With all the XP gained raid-wide, I was surprised more members hadn't advanced, but I couldn't have cared less. As we strolled across the field to reunite with our allies, a glance cast to the south revealed the dark silhouettes of the freed Michonne and a couple other beings I hadn't noticed when we rode into battle. I might have used my seeing spell to take a better look, but I chose to skim the combat logs instead, with a specific purpose in mind. The results were surprising, and I was elated. When I reached Giles, I shoved his shoulder as I strolled right past, made a beeline for Eston Beale, then raised one hand. Brunk never got below 70% health, and Liatra only supported you with Shireen's shielding abilities. That is exactly what I was talking about. You were true to your word, and you even held your spirit ability in reserve. You're going to make a hell of a team member if you choose to continue riding with us. He clapped my offered hand.
Thanks.
I slapped Brunk's shoulder. Fine job. Good shit. The rock troll grunted, then bobbed his head. Tess threw an arm around him, and he clapped her back. The two seemed really tight. And now that Eston had gotten his head right, for the moment anyway, I'd make sure to show Brunk the added respect to keep Tess's disposition toward me as high as possible. With the thought of disposition, my HUD had a new announcement.
Contessa of Milbury's disposition toward you has reached endeared. Contessa has 2 additional attribute points you can spend.
Even better. I dropped them in intellect, and that was when I noticed something curious. I faced her when she pulled away from Brunk. How the hell is your strength so jacked? It rivaled Dicine's. It was Shabana who answered.
Because she worked hard on that farm of hers before coming to the academy. She does 100 push-ups every night. I'd be surprised if it wasn't so high.
She threw an arm around Tess's neck and received one around her waist in turn. Tight group. Good shit. A voice cut the temporary silence from behind us.
Brunk?
A muscular female with disheveled, stringy hair stood just ahead of the incoming procession of Miss Hone. She panted like she'd run to the field from the hill.
Brunk? Brunk?
She jumped up and down, then charged the newest tank in our group. Brunk dropped his axe.
Sister!
He lumbered over, threw his arms around her, raised her into the air, then spun her around.
Sister! Sister!
Tess broke into tears, her hands cupping either side of her face.
Oh my goddess. It's her. We've been searching for her high and low. Brunk escaped from a quarry where she was still enslaved, but when we went there to try and liberate her, it was abandoned. I even tried to scry for her when Uncle Drassen wasn't nearby. Don't tell him that.
The statement confused me because I didn't see a mana bar when I focused on Brunk's sister. It was my understanding she could only scry for magic users. Then I recalled how one of the Versager's acolytes had appeared outside the Plague Baron's instance the day Giles caught up with us, after following us across southern Rubal. While we'd suspected he'd scried for Priya's magic essences to locate us, Giles insisted it had been him who'd drawn the enemy close. Now that made sense, but I wanted to verify my suspicion anyway. So you can scry for non-magic users? Like, if I wanted to track someone down, you could do it? Tess nodded.
Drassen insisted I didn't because people were already suspicious of me, but if it would serve you, I'll rank up the skill.
I nodded, banking the possibility for later. The rock trolls danced in the field, their arms wrapped around each other like they might never let go. I shared in Tess's elation, a warm feeling filling my chest. If Brunk had escaped slavery and met Tess when she went to the academy, more than 5 years would have passed. That we happened upon her was a lucky boon if I'd ever heard of one.
You have completed a quest, a vital rescue. You rescued the Michonne being held at a work camp west of the hinterlands of Saran in central Rubal. Rewards: 35,000 XP, 1,000 gold.
Among the Michonne, I spotted many familiar faces, and the sight made me feel lighter on my feet. One had been my master of the apothecary, brilliant at mixing potions. I hadn't stuck around Brumhill long enough to notice she was among the missing, but now I'd build her a new workplace in Briarton. I started hugging necks, the words of gratitude warming me even more. My friends were haggard, obviously overworked and under-rested, and now I had to march them north. My HUD flashed as it brought a frame to center.
Clan chat. Simancia.
Are you busy?
G3 and 1 and 1.
Just liberated a giant farm, enemies dead, Michonne safe, and, as luck would have it, we found Brunk's sister.
Oh my. That's fantastic, Gemini. Tess and Brunk have been looking everywhere for her.
Yep, pretty awesome.
Well, it is just as you predicted. One of your enemies reported your incursion, and our enemy is angry. It was because they'd made special effort to kidnap the Michon, and because the commander you captured in Briarton said the camp was near a river that you suspected there'd be farms, right? Because the Michon are such talented botanists and field hands?
Yeah,
Perhaps it is this Lucera who underestimates you.
if only I could believe that. Now tell me what you're seeing.
The Rubalian River portal just attuned itself to the Highlands portal, and I see troops on the other side. They haven't yet engaged. Maybe they wanted to get a look at us first. But I did as you suggested and made sure my people were out of their lines of sight. They're measuring their options, or perhaps showing us what we'd face if we decided to push forth. Either way, you can bet Lutera has been notified, which means Seema is aware.
I still have to march the Michonne north. We don't have enough mounts for 30 people, but I can choose a group to escort them and bring the rest to support your cause.
My people plan to fight their way through this until we've reclaimed the Brucerian Way portal. It is hallowed ground, and it must be returned to the elves.
And this time it will be claimed in the name of New Nin. We're allies. I can use it anyway.
If you want to pick a couple of team members and come in support of us, perhaps we can protect this place long enough to recapture the portal, receive the Michon, and portal them to New Nin, then wherever you'd like them to go.
Yeah, I'm on my way. Folks, gather round. I waved everyone forward. First, congratulations on a perfectly executed plan. Taking the garrison in Briarton and these farms has shown we're ready for just about anything when we focus. But there's tough terrain ahead, and our work isn't done. I looked at Shen. I saw horses behind the locked row house. Didn't get a count. Those who don't feel like they can walk should ride north with you. She nodded, then set off for the remaining row house, while the other burned. Giles, I want you, Decini, Amelia, Liatra, and Tess with me. Brunk, Eston, Shabana, and Trela. Escort Brunk's sister, my people. And these two, I pointed at two humans I hadn't met, to the way portal. I look forward to meeting you all. But we need to move if we're to clear out potential enemies before you arrive there. Everyone good with that? Eston nodded.
We won't let you down.
With Brunk's sister in the crosshairs of any impending trouble, I somehow doubted anyone was going to have an easy time reaching her. His assignment to the protection detail made the most sense. Long-lost family was a hell of a motivator. Tierra Trillip, the master botanist who had been slaving in the fields, addressed me in a dry rasp.
We should gather up what food we can carry and burn the rest, so they cannot come and claim it, Master Gemini. The bastards deserve every pain we can inflict.
By the twisted, wrinkled expression on her face, I knew she meant it. A sense that she'd been through hell burned me up, and I couldn't wait to make more people bleed. We hadn't been riding for 5 minutes when my HUD flashed again.
Semansia,
The invasion has begun.
G3M1N1.
They didn't waste any time.
They're flooding in. It seems they've chosen to make their stand here.
I'll ride ahead with Giles.
Fine. Oh, and I'd be remiss not to mention that I think this other Shenhua you didn't bother to tell me about might be a little crazy.
We all have our secrets. And she's more than a little crazy, but she's not reckless.
Time for me to engage now that my troops have garnered enemy hatred.
Semansia has squelched clan chat.
The casual tone of the Queen's text while enemy forces bore down spoke to her familiarity with these types of incursions. I wondered what I'd be like at 2,000 years old. Musings for later. Time for part 2 of the plan.
Clan chat. G3M1N1.
Master Welling.
Drasin.
Yes, Shenhua.
Do it now.
Acknowledged, Shenhua. All the best in your venture.
And in yours. I waved. Giles with me. We need to move with speed.
All haste, Gemini.
Amelia perked up.
My mount is fast as well.
With Tess, Decini, and Liatra bringing up the rear. They'd have a DPS, a tank, and a healer to handle any threats, so I nodded. Amelia with us. Tess, see you soon. I'm disbanding the raid, so you guys party up separately.
Of course, Gemini.
And off we rode. 31. A heavy snow moved in from the east as our mounts pounded the ground. The cries of war echoed from inside the Way Portal Coliseum when we approached, but the huge double doors were sealed. I was about to message Samantia when I remembered she'd squelched chat. A loud rumble came on the wind, then the doors began to part. They'd been watching for us, of course. We rode into an all-out bloody melee. I considered unleashing thunder on the enemy, but until I was enjoined to the raid party, his fire could harm the elves. That wouldn't do, so I dismounted just outside the doors, whipped out both katanas, then howled as I sped inside to psych myself up. Passing on one side, Giles glowed blue as he faded into stealth, and Amelia hit the stairs to the second landing. But she ran into issues.
Need some help here?
Although I could barely hear her over the sounds of battle, Giles sped toward her like her words had been clear as day. Elven soldiers defended the stairs, refusing enemy access to the high ground. Amelia stopped at the bottom, drew her crossbow, and popped one into a combatant's spine. The soldier tumbled down the stairs to her feet, and I finished him with a nice downward stab to his chest. XP was awarded. Giles and I engaged. Two of our foes, apparently unaware we'd come up behind them, met hasty ends. Their cries of agony as they died alerted their compatriots to our presence, causing a couple in the back to face us.
Simancia has invited you to a raid. Giles has joined the raid. Amelia has joined the raid.
We pushed the soldiers forward, while the elven troops drove them back, compressing them into an alley of death on the stairs. Blood splattered against the wooden risers on either side. A head rolled free of its body, and I kicked it away. With a final desperate thrust of his sword, a human with a facial tattoo sliced between my chest gear and my loin protector. Warmth flowed down my leg. When the hellish pain tore through my muscles, I lost my footing and tumbled backward, but Giles snatched my arm and yanked me so hard I fell in the opposite direction. By luck or skill, I couldn't be sure, I used the momentum to run the katana in my offhand through the neck of the bastard who'd cut me. As my target died, he reached for the crimson life force pouring from his neck, but it only painted his fingers. His eyes rolled up into his head. I dodged just in time for his lifeless body to tumble halfway down the stairs. While I recovered from the blow I'd received, Giles swung his blades across each other, then tore into an enemy's neck just above my head. More XP. Then more XP. Golden light flashed around my body. Not 3 seconds later, Giles leveled.
You have reached level 44, +2 dexterity, +2 constitution. Your bound companion, Giles Renard, has reached level 54.
The pain faded as I ranked up and my health returned to full. Replenished and revitalized with a full stamina pool, I raised my gaze just in time to see the amazed expression of a human with an elven sword shoved through his chest so the point quivered inches from my face. A flash of memory came and went from Waycutter Downs, where Daciani's sword had impaled a victim and nearly punctured my eyeball. Her path cleared. Amelia scurried past us.
Thanks.
I laughed. No fucking problem. Enjoy the high ground, yeah? Giles shoved my shoulder, then directed me down the stairs. When we rounded the corner, I could have sworn the number of combatants had doubled. Steel clanked off steel. Blood painted the ground underfoot. Bodies folded like origami swans. XP was rewarded. I spied a strange beast covered in scales with flesh tendrils spouting from the top of its head and the corners of its mouth.
Veramore Swamp Dragon. Level 42, Beast Minion.
I recalled Time Batipol's story about these swamp creatures that the Shintao had tamed to become their mounts. Figured a brutal warrior race would want combatant rides, like the one I'd left outside. It snatched up an elf in its jaws, then widened them, like it would clamp down and snap his spine, but a well-timed arrow shot through the air from behind us and caught it right between the eyes. The elf tumbled to the ground, then two of his allies dragged him out of range. Giles flashed out of existence, then reappeared behind the beast. Launching up its back, he slammed both daggers down. The swamp dragon roared, twisting its head side to side, trying to get at the elven rogue. It was dead seconds later. XP was rewarded. The echoes of the pain from my injury of moments before did little to distract me. Where pain had once been the enemy of reason and caused the kinds of mistakes gamers would have laughed at. Well, it was amazing what one could get used to. Now I suspected a sadistic side of me invited the discomfort, thrived on it, used it to ramp up my adrenaline so I could kill. No doubt about it. I am becoming a psychopath. Glorious violence. Unsuspecting foes run through by my blades as I sneaked in behind them to slide my steel across their spines. Giles activated an ability, and his ghostly form sped from target to target while I advanced toward the center of the arena. I spied the long, flowing locks and red armor of my elven queen, so I pushed in that direction. A human with pale white skin and a kite shield shot out from the crowd to cut me off. He grasped a sword with a huge hilt, boasting a large green stone, and banged his shield twice.
The Shenhua is here.
A couple heads turned. The first who came to assist him was cut down from behind by Giles. When the next tried to evade the elven rogue, he met a similar end. A boomerang shot into view and sliced one side of his neck before returning to its thrower. Oh, glorious XP. The yellow bar at the bottom of my HUD flashed on the right end, then ticked up to 50%. Jesus, we dropping big boys. The paladin thrust his shield toward me, trying to bash me in the face. I parried with my left katana, but my blade flew into the crowd. God damn it, now you pissed me off. He lunged with the sword. I spun away, brought around my elbow, and caught him in the chin. A moment later, I stomped into the side of his knee. It buckled. When he dropped, I held my blade across his throat. The paladin surrendered, dropping his shield and his weapon to the ground. Nope, you picked the wrong side. No mercy today, dickwad. I sliced an artery, then continued my trek toward the queen, counting my lucky stars that I'd had a mentor like Giles Renard, who taught me how to fight with more than my weapons and to think outside the box. The queen dispatched a foe with her magic sword, then thrust the weapon skyward. She flashed with golden light, then a shockwave of wind blew enemies in all directions. I used the moment to scurry forth and press my back to hers. A bright purple light drew my attention to the left, where Caitlin had just taunted and captured the ire of 3 enemies. A green aura surrounded her, then a white flash. The source of the shield and healing was further down, standing off to one side of the portal, jet black hair whipping around her head as the ethereal wind surrounded her. Roshan. I took a screenshot, then noticed another robed figure running towards her. Not one of ours. My legs tensed, and I had every intention of rescuing the healer, but it proved unnecessary when a bolt cast in bright red light caught the enemy in her chest. Amelia. She stood with 2 other ranged attackers, reloading her hand crossbow. Machini Cher caught her boomerang nearby, whipped her hands around to get a new skill loaded, then threw it again.
Clan chat. Nunin. Simancia.
My people, the time has come. Ready your weapons, tune the portal, and bring forth your fury that we might reclaim the hallowed ground of the Brisarian Wayportal Arena.
We'd have to capture the one between ours and their first, but I got the picture. So would they. Despite the violence surrounding them, the elves howled a war cry that muffled every other sound. Enemies took faltering steps backward in shock. An elven soldier dropped to the ground on the opposite side of the ethereal gateway, an arrow protruding from one side of his neck. Roshan wasn't looking at me, and there was no time for a private chat, so I couldn't warn her to heal the man. Blood spurted in sickening pulses from the wound in his artery. An image of that fateful day at the Wayportal, when Priya and the rogue members of Drasin Welling's Shadow Council Coven laid waste to so many of Simancia's people, forced me into action. Never again. I scanned as his health dropped to an almost undetectable amount.
Gildren. Level 50 Blade Dancer. Disposition. Respected.
Just before the last of his life force could drain, I bound him. Considering the circumstances, I didn't take the time to read the flood of information. I just spent 6 points in strength seconds before he died. Simancia's back jostled against mine. When I felt her shift behind me, I moved in the opposite direction to maintain our defensive posture. Just bound Gildren the Blade Dancer because he was going to die.
Consider Trailer the exception. If they hold the requisite disposition, bind them all, and we'll sort them out later. Giles, protect the Shenhua at all costs.
Taking up the queen's cue, Caitlin also shifted, drawing her enemy backwards so I had her, an elven queen, and a badass rogue forming a triangle around me. With a thought, I filtered my HUD to display only the health dials hovering over every nearby allied fighter's head. Since Simancia projected reverence for me to her people, I hoped they'd hold at least friendly dispositions. Besides, I'd met many of her forces in the past. I couldn't expect them all to be friendly or better, but I was pleased to find, when I worked from the lowest health fighter to the highest, I gained new companions until I couldn't find anyone else to bind. Holy shit, I'm going to rule the fucking world. An incoming enemy came in on Caitlin's blindside, and I stopped my scan of the surrounding army to shove him off with a boot to the hip. She finished her enemy, then turned to strike at the grounded opponent.
Thanks. You haven't lost a step.
I was about to say the same. The doors rumbled. I cut my gaze, into a channel of open air between the fighting crowds and shot off invites to the new arrivals.
You have invited Contessa to the raid. You have invited Liatra to the raid. You have invited Decini to the raid. Contessa has joined the raid. Liatra has joined the raid. Decini has joined the raid. Decini.
Where the hell are you?
G3M1N1.
Just past the center, closing in on the portal.
Because of course you would fight toward the place where the enemy floods onto the battlefield.
There's a plan. Stop chatting and start fighting. Just when I squelched the announcements, a flying figure whipped into view, then hovered inches from my forehead. She waved her hand just as I swung my remaining katana at an enemy, and a lilac ethereal shield surrounded me. The man's silver plate sported blood splatter reminiscent of a Pollock piece. He eyed my support fairy and tried to slice at her. I almost laughed as I used the distraction to puncture his Adam's apple. Soon I was surrounded by my people, and I stepped closer to the gateway. The distinct sense we would win the day washed over me, but the second the thought crossed my mind, I saw two mages casting mana into the portal. The image of the Highlands Way portal, which appeared totally empty, vanished. Then the flyover perspective began, crossing a snowy valley, then zipping over a white-dressed forest to reveal the Queen's high-spired castle. A moment later, we stared into the faces of a bunch of elves in white, red, and black plate armor, weapons at the ready. They flooded onto the battleground. The tide had turned. Human enemies wearing the signets of the former king began dropping their weapons and throwing their hands up. The others, the warriors with long locks of black hair who served Sima, started running them through, probably as a penalty for weakness. But they couldn't take the elves at the same time. Just when all their health bars started ticking down faster than healers in the back ranks could heal them against the swarming elves, Contessa of Milbury sped into the center of the fray, positioned herself behind a rank of elves, then threw her hands skyward. The casting bar above her head slid slowly from left to right. A glow enveloped her. Then she fired a violent, fiery shockwave in all directions. It slammed into the wall only a second later. The XP tally shot up as too many enemies to count tumbled hard to the ground. Holy shit, that was a good move. She saw their declining health meters, slid in behind a row of protectors to buy herself the long cast time, then obliterated the mofas. The elves swarmed the remaining few, then sent them to their digital maker. Peace, bitches. My stamina bar blinked, and I dropped down onto my ass. Chest huffing, I surveyed my surroundings. There must have been over 200 corpses, and I was thrilled to know how few were elves. An airy feeling filled my chest at the idea I might have paid recompense for what the AI had done to these people, because I had led Priya Sky to her ultimate doom and allowed her to be used as a tool against them. I'd call this a good day. The army sheathed their weapons, moved in, then dropped to one knee before me. I looked around and found Simancia standing beside me. Then it made sense, showing reverence to their queen. The man who spoke wore a golden emblem on one shoulder, and his words contradicted the thought.
You have saved so many of us from certain doom today, Shenhua. If it would be our queen's will, we would push forward with you in service to Solara so that your enemies lay at your feet.
I was going to make Lucera wish she'd never advised me to make friends. A good fucking day indeed.